Majin being the new kid in school, walking into a crowded cafeteria where every eye turns to you, not with kindness, but with curiosity, jealousy, or cruelty. Imagine being targeted by the school's most feared bully, humiliated in front of everyone. And just when he thinks he's won, something inside you awakens, something no one ever expected. And seconds later, that same bully is on the floor begging for mercy. This is not just a story about a girl, it's a story about courage, hidden strength, and standing up against hate. Stick with me until the end, and before we dive in, hit that subscribe button because stories like this one don't just entertain. They open eyes and leave powerful lessons you'll never forget. 17-year-old Amara Johnson hated the feeling of starting over. Crestwood High was nothing like her old school in Atlanta. Here, the walls gleamed with polished trophies, the cliques were tighter, and being different meant being noticed in all the wrong ways. Amara, tall with braided hair and a quiet strength, kept her head down, clutching her schedule as though it might shield her from the stares. She had learned long ago that the world didn't always welcome girls like her with open arms. The first few classes were uneventful, but lunch was different. The cafeteria was loud, buzzing with laughter and gossip, and Amara sat alone at the edge of a table, unpacking her food quietly. It didn't take long before trouble found her. Dylan Mason, Crestwood's golden boy and notorious bully, spotted her instantly. He was the kind of guy who strutted like the school belonged to him. Tall, broad-shouldered, sandy blonde hair, styled just so, with a smirk that screamed arrogance. Everyone knew Dylan, and Dylan made sure of it. He approached her table with his entourage trailing behind, eyes locked on Amara like a predator who had just found his prey. "Well, well, what do we have here?" Dylan sneered, his voice loud enough to capture the attention of half the cafeteria. "New girl thinks she can sit here without asking permission?" Amara froze. She could feel dozens of eyes on her, waiting to see how she would respond. She said nothing, hoping silence would diffuse the situation. But Dylan wasn't done. He grabbed her juice box off the table and crushed it in his fist, spraying its contents all over her food and lap. The cafeteria erupted in laughter. Heat rose in Amara's chest, but she stayed calm, just like her mom always taught her. "Pick your battles, baby," her mom would say. "Not every hill is worth dying on." So she stood, gathered her things, and walked out, leaving Dylan smirking behind her. What Dylan didn't know, what no one at Crestwood knew, was that Amara wasn't just another new girl. She had been trained in martial arts since she was 6, a discipline passed down from her father, a former military man who taught her resilience, self-control, and the power of patience. For now, she chose restraint. But fate had other plans, and Dylan's cruelty wouldn't end there. The following days were no easier. Whispers followed Amara in the halls. Some students were curious, some cruel, others silent but complicit. Dylan, emboldened by the cafeteria incident, made it his mission to torment her. He'd bump her locker shut as she tried to open it, scatter her books across the hallway, and hurl insults dripping with venom. "Go back to where you came from," he muttered one morning, loud enough for others to hear. The crowd laughed, nervously, no one daring to stand up to him. Amara clenched her fists, remembering her father's lessons. True strength isn't in throwing the first punch, it's in knowing when to strike. But the pressure built daily, a storm inside her waiting to erupt. Then came the Friday pep rally. The gym was packed, banners waving, the cheerleaders chanting. Dylan, always hungry for attention, seized the moment. He spotted Amara near the bleachers, quietly watching the commotion. With a grin, he strutted over, his voice booming over the microphone he had stolen from the announcer's table. "Hey, everyone, look! The new girl finally showed up. Maybe she'll entertain us with a dance from the jungle." Laughter exploded. Phones came out, recording every second. Amara felt her chest tighten, shame mixing with fury. She wanted to disappear, but Dylan wasn't finished. He yanked her backpack off her shoulder and dumped its contents onto the gym floor. Books, pens, and personal items scattered while the crowd howled with laughter. Something inside Amara snapped. She bent down slowly, gathering her belongings, her face unreadable. Dylan leaned closer, whispering, "You don't belong here, freak." That was the last straw. Amara stood, her eyes locking on Dylan's with an intensity that silenced even his friends. For the first time, Dylan looked uncertain. The crowd, sensing something was about to happen, quieted. And then it did. Dylan shoved her shoulder hard, expecting her to stumble. Instead, Amara pivoted smoothly, her training kicking in. In one swift motion, she grabbed his wrist, twisted, and flipped him flat onto his back. The sound of Dylan hitting the gym floor echoed louder than the laughter ever had. Gasps filled the room. Dylan's friends rushed forward, but Amara raised, a hand calmly, her stance firm, her eyes daring them to try. Dylan groaned on the floor, stunned, humiliated, and for the first time, powerless. Phones captured every angle as the school bully became the school spectacle. Seconds later, Dylan was on his knees, clutching his wrist, begging, "Stop! Stop! I give up!" The crowd erupted, not in laughter this time, but in cheers. Amara didn't smile, didn't gloat. She simply picked up her bag, slung it over her shoulder, and walked out of the gym, leaving Dylan broken and the entire school stunned. By Monday, Dylan's humiliation had become the school's biggest gossip. The video of Amara flipping him at the pep rally was everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, even Snapchat stories. The boy who once terrified everyone was now the joke of Crestwood High. But Dylan's bruised pride only grew darker. He couldn't stand the whispers, the laughter behind his back, the loss of his throne. One evening, he and 3 of his friends cornered Amara near the park. "You think this is over?" Dylan spat, fists clenched. Amara calmly dropped her backpack and warned, "I don't want to fight, but if you start it, I'll end it." Dylan charged, but she moved like water, sidestepping and sending him crashing to the ground. His friends followed, but her training made the fight one-sided. Precise blocks, quick takedowns, controlled strikes. Within minutes, all 4 bullies were groaning on the pavement. Amara stood tall, her voice calm but commanding. "This ends tonight. Leave me alone, or next time you'll regret it even more." Dylan's eyes filled with fear. For the first time in his life, he had met someone stronger than his cruelty. The next week at Crestwood felt different. Students looked at Amara with respect instead of mockery. Teachers kept a sharper eye on bullying, and whispers about the pep rally flip became legend. Dylan, once untouchable, now kept his head down, no longer the king of the hallways. One afternoon, he quietly approached Amara under the oak tree outside school. For a moment, she braced herself for trouble, but his voice was low, almost broken. I'm sorry," he admitted. "I thought making people fear me made me strong, but I was wrong." Amara studied him, then said simply, "Real strength isn't in tearing people down. It's in building them up." Dylan nodded, shame in his eyes. He walked away, leaving Amara with a quiet victory, not just over him, but over the culture of fear he had built. From that day on, Crestwood High changed. The story of the new black girl who stood up to the school's biggest bully spread like wildfire, a reminder that sometimes the quietest voices carry the most powerful strength.